I scored a 152, which I was pretty disappointed about because when I had been doing practice tests leading up to my exam, I'd been consistently hitting in the 160s. I wanted to retake it.
If you had the security of knowing that you had gotten a couple of PTs in the 160s prior to test day, that would then give you more confidence that you could get 160s on test day itself. This is Molly, and she's looking to go from a 152 to the 160s in the next 3 weeks. My name is Steve Schwartz, and I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005. Today, Molly is going to bring me her biggest LSAT challenges, and I'll help her address them as she looks to improve by at least 10 points. So tell me a little bit about where you're at right now LSAT-wise, where you're scoring when you're taking it.
So I've taken the LSAT once. I took the September LSAT and I spent the summer studying. I scored a 152, which I was pretty disappointed about because when I had been doing practice tests leading up to my exam, I'd been consistently hitting in the 160s. I wanted to retake it. I think part of my problem on the actual exam was a little bit of anxiety, and I'm also working through a concussion. It's a lot better, but I definitely have some off days, and unfortunately my test day was one of those. What I'm really trying to do is really tighten up my skills on the areas where I'm a little bit less confident, so that even if I'm having an off day, that it comes a little bit more naturally.
It makes perfect sense. We want to raise your baseline so that you're still in the 160s on your worst day and hopefully doing better, assuming everything goes smoothly. And when are you taking the LSAT? What's your target test date?
So I'm signed up for the test in November. I'm hoping that will be my last time writing, but I would take it again if it's not.
So we're in mid-October now, so we've only got maybe 3 weeks or so. How many hours a week are you able to study?
I do 2 to 3 hours a day.
What about weekends? You do more then?
Yeah, I could do more on weekends.
Awesome, solid. So it's really just a matter of going hard at it for these next 3 weeks. Carving out the time where you can, because we want you to knock it out, just be one and done in November and then be able to move on and send in your apps. If you're taking the LSAT in November, you're not behind, you're not late, you're actually in one of the best positions in the entire cycle. There's this old myth going around that if you apply early, you're good. If not, you're screwed. Doesn't really reflect how law school admissions works today. If you're taking it in November, you actually are still early. But in contrast to those who took it in August or September, you've got more time to study, more time to prep your applications, and you've still got a real shot at scholarship money before the budgets dry up. They're not just sitting around in September handing out seats. They're still evaluating and comparing and waiting for stronger candidates who might come along a bit later. And so if you take the LSAT in November and you send in your application the second that your score comes back, you're hitting them right at the moment they're paying the most attention. But when you rush your applications, admission officers see that, they know they're rushed, and they don't reward you just for being early. They are not incentivized to evaluate you based on when you apply. They are only incentivized to evaluate you based on your metrics, your LSAT score, your GPA, and then all the various soft factors as well. But when you give yourself a couple more months, you're making for a stronger LSAT score and a stronger application. Yeah, what would you say are some of your biggest weak areas or pain points right now with the LSAT?
LR, I think, is more challenging for me. RC, I feel like if I take my time, I can do it. And I do have a little bit of wiggle room because I do have accommodations. So RC, there are definitely some things that I want to tighten up, but I feel like my struggle areas are definitely more LR based.
Okay, within LR, are there certain question types or certain methods of reasoning, certain topics that you feel like are particularly challenging for you?
When I was studying originally, I would say the necessary assumption questions, conditional logic, that would trip me up a bit. But I more just want to tighten up the whole thing.
But the areas that you're mentioning are actually high yield because logical reasoning is 2/3 of the test. Within that, necessary assumptions, one of the most common types of questions. Mm-hmm. And LSAC has been testing more conditional logic as well. Ever since they removed the logic games, they're incorporating more of that type of reasoning into LR as well. And so if we can get you better at necessary assumption, get you better at conditional logic, that right there could get you another 5-10 points without requiring you to push back your test date. Now, do you feel like you're able to distinguish between necessary assumption and sufficient assumption in terms of question stems?
A necessary assumption, I think, is something that has to be 100% true, but the sufficient assumption doesn't have to be 100% true. It just would allow the conclusion to follow.
Exactly right. Nailed it. So yeah, necessary assumption is required in order for the argument to work. If that thing were not the case, that conclusion falls apart. Given the evidence, the argument no longer works. And so that's why negation is a really useful technique. Do you feel like you're pretty clear on how to negate choices?
I do understand it as a concept. I think sometimes I don't negate correctly, and that's sometimes my problem.
Okay. All right. So maybe just negation's an area to work on.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to negate simple sentences, also more complex sentences, as well as quantifier words like all, most, sometimes, few, any, all, never, all of those. So that might be an area to brush up.
It makes sense. Like, I definitely know that that's an area where I need improvement.
Most people understand the idea of negation in theory, but they will negate the wrong thing. They'll start flipping random words. So you want to negate the core claim, the core subject-verb connection in the choices. If the argument collapses as a result, then that choice was necessary. If the argument survives, then you eliminate. If the question stem says depends upon, requires, assumes, presupposes, that's necessary assumption. Then we look for the gap. What's the conclusion? What's the evidence? What needs to be the case for that jump to make sense? Now, when negating, you want to also note quantifier words like all, most, some, none, and so on. When we're negating, all becomes not all. So if we have all people who take the LSAT, we negate that and say not all people who take the LSAT, or not everyone who takes the LSAT. We have words indicating degree of certainty like must, always, never, or will. So must, when negated, becomes not necessarily. Always, when negated, becomes not always or sometimes not. Never, when negated, becomes sometimes. We are not looking to argue over the minutia or every little word. Ain't nobody got time for that. We're focusing on negating the core logic, the core subject and verb. That's it. Hey, real quick, guys. A lot of you have been asking me how you can be featured in one of these LSAT study breakdowns and get feedback on your approach. The only way is to join one of my LSAT coaching programs. You can check out the links below to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. And now, back to the show. Okay, yeah, so that's something I would practice in drill, like just take random sentences, especially within necessary assumption answer choices. Try negating each one. You can go over those in class, you can go over those in coaching. The idea being that you want to be able to clearly and confidently negate every single choice. It's really just the primary subject-verb relationship. If you can attack that, that's what makes the choice fall apart. It makes the argument fall apart if negated. And then for conditional logic, are you feeling like you're okay with symbolizing things, taking contrapositive, linking chains together?
Yeah, so recently in my study plan, I did one or two of the conditional classes with Deshaun, I think his name was, and I found that really helpful. Like, that really clarified a lot for me. So now I think it's just more of a question of practicing to really get it down. But that overall was something that I think was a struggle on my first take.
You watched the lessons, you've been able to try practicing that on your own a bit. Good reading comp is basically closed book, open book, meaning your book is the marginal notes that you just made on your scratch paper. Now, there are 4 classic reading comp traps that you want to beat. First is out of scope. If it sounds smart, but it's not actually in the passage, goodbye, it's gone. Second, you have your extreme language, things like always, never, and all, because the author is almost never going to be writing like that. They're a lot more nuanced, a lot more moderate. Then you have the wrong viewpoint, where the answer is true for viewpoint 2 when the question was asking about viewpoint 1 or vice versa. Then you have distortions, meaning swaps of details, where it's the right topic, but the wrong relationship, like causation versus correlation or example versus conclusion. Now, here's your daily 15-minute reading comp drill. You spend 6 minutes reading one old passage and writing one-line tasks per paragraph. Then you spend 4 minutes answering only the main point, primary purpose, and author's attitude questions. Then finally, the last 5 minutes, you check the answers and write down one rule you learned. For example, the author rarely uses extreme claims. Or paragraph 2 introduced a counterpoint. Watch for a rebuttal in paragraph 3. Finally, review like a lawyer. For every single question that you miss or guess on, you want to ask yourself, which paragraph job would have prevented this miss? Like some, likely, appears, critics argue. And finally, what's my new rule to catch it next time? You want to write down one sentence, then move on. How are you feeling on reading comp? Is that feeling pretty smooth?
It's feeling good. I had a reading comp question because I was actually watching a video this morning from my study plan, and one of the students mentioned really benefiting from a workshop with Ayaka on her reading comp method. And I looked for it on the website to see because it sounded like something that would be useful to me.
Yeah, she had a really great lesson on breaking down reading comp passage structures with a skeleton of sorts. I've also discussed this as well, but Ayaka had a really great method with using a Google Sheet, dividing it into each paragraph and having a simple structure breakdown and a more complex structure breakdown as well.
Yeah, so that sounds like it would really improve my reading comp, but I think it's pretty good as where it is right now. I took an untimed test on Saturday over the weekend, and it was my first full prep test since my LSAT in September, and I scored a 158, so that's like a 6-point improvement. I've only been studying for 2 weeks, so I feel like that's okay.
That's definitely worth celebrating. That's great. That's not too far from 160s.
Yeah, I'm almost there. That's pretty good. And my RC, I scored a -7 or -6, which I was pretty happy with because I hadn't started any of the RC prep in my personalized study plan yet. I had more been focusing on RC, so I felt like that was a blind diagnostic of where my RC is at. So I feel like I could hit a -0 on RC because I feel like I could do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Shoot for -0. I mean, you've got time, and if reading up's a strong suit, then maybe you watch that lesson from Ayaka, you implement some of the changes from that you learned from that, practice them a few times, and that might be enough to get you there.
I think that also an area that I need to improve on is reviewing my mistakes, because I kind of feel like when I look at my mistakes, I'm like, oh, that makes sense, and then I'll just move on. But obviously it didn't make sense when I did it the first time, so I think I might need someone to walk me through it just so I actually pay a little bit more attention to it.
Yeah, exactly. Helping you make sure that you're actually making the changes that you intend to make. Review is not only about what you got right, it's about why you got things wrong. Now, at LSAT Unplugged, we teach a process called the Socratic review method. And it works like this. For every question you miss, I want you to ask, where did I go wrong? Was it the stimulus, the question stem, the choices? You also want to ask, what was the trap? And finally, what is the fix? Is it a logic issue, a timing issue, a reading issue? The reason we ask these questions is because if you can pinpoint the root cause, then the next time you see a similar pattern, you'll spot it instantly. That's how the real growth happens. Like I said, the LSAT is a test of pattern recognition. And the more clearly you can see the patterns, the more deliberately you train, the more predictable the test becomes. What's your schedule like now in terms of taking practice tests?
Well, I've just been following my personalized study plan, and on it, I have a timed prep test coming up over the weekend. That would be my second one. I would be interested in doing more. I feel like maybe that would be beneficial, especially because I'm trying to focus on my stamina as well, because I think that's somewhere where I struggle, especially with the concussion.
Okay, yeah, then I would agree. Add on more. If you feel like you have the space in your schedule to do it, especially on weekends, don't do them on consecutive days, of course. I don't want you to burn out, but maybe adding in a couple more would be valuable to help you build up the endurance.
I could just add those wherever.
No, just add them wherever you feel like you could handle them without overdoing it. For every question that you get wrong or have difficulty with, you save a running list of those questions, and then you can go over them with your coach, ideally within 24 hours while your thought process is still fresh. Hey, real quick, guys. If you're just getting started with your LSAT prep or you're looking for a quick refresher, you can grab your free easy LSAT cheat sheet linked below this video. It's jam-packed full of concrete actionable tactics you can take and apply to your LSAT prep for a quick score boost, and it's 100% free, so you can grab your copy below. And now, back to the show. Anything else I could do to help you out right now?
I think my biggest concern is just having a little bit of test anxiety.
Yeah, that's really normal. It's a really common issue. I mean, have you ever tried mindfulness meditation or breathing exercises, anything like that?
Yeah, I have.
How's that worked for you?
It's been fine. I don't know. I haven't noticed a super huge difference, but it hasn't been negative.
Have you been doing it every day?
No, maybe I should.
It's a habit that you build over time. So even just 3 to 5 minutes a day really makes a difference. And it's just a matter of carving out the time and prioritizing it. Everyone's got 3 to 5 minutes. If you do that every single day for the next 3 to 4 weeks, it would scale up really nicely so that by test day, you would have the increased focus and discipline and self-control so that if you ever felt yourself spiraling during the actual test, because let's say you got bogged down or stuck on a single question and you start catastrophizing and projecting out the consequences of having gotten that question wrong, maybe, then this could help you ground and then recognize it's happening, flag it, skip it, move on, come back later. And then the other thing I would be thinking about is just raising your baseline understanding. If you had the security of knowing that you had gotten a couple of PTs in the 160s prior to test day, that would then give you more confidence that you could get 160s on test day itself. So it's about getting that buffer. I also want you to deal with the mental game, because if you struggle with test anxiety, that's not a you problem. That's just part of taking the LSAT. You need systems for calming your mind and refocusing quickly when things go sideways. Even just 3 minutes of breathing practice each day can make a massive difference. And so when we work with students, this is exactly what we focus on, building the habits and the structure so your bad day score, your worst test day score, still gets you into your dream school. Now, if on test day, your heart's racing, your brain's getting kind of foggy, and your timing's falling apart, you also want to label what you're experiencing and redirect. So if your heart is racing, that's adrenaline. You're not actually in danger. It's just the LSAT, right? You could also focus on counting your breath for 10 seconds. If you lose track, you start over. That's the routine. And you do this every single day. Consistency beats duration. You also want to have a pre-section launch or warm-up sequence so that you start the LSAT calm. A 5-minute pre-section routine could be 60 seconds of that 4-7-8 breathing cycle, 60 seconds of skimming your pacing checkpoints, like doing the first 10 questions in logical reasoning in just 10 minutes, 60 seconds of reading your rules of engagement or your key takeaways from your mistake journal or error log, 60 seconds doing a warm-up question from an easy prior drill to trigger that sense of having done this before, and 30 seconds of a simple phrase like calm body, clear steps, next question.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. It was a pleasure. Have a good one. Talk soon.
Yeah, you too.